Oh, yeah. Forget that. Okay, so I think our agenda is that Scott is being inducted into the Hall of Fame this evening. So we thought that it's okay. It's okay. We thought we would chat with Scott, or I volunteered to chat with Scott since we have been buddies since
third or fourth.
I think maybe fourth. When did you start?
I came to U School in third grade. And then I think I had a year where I was sort of wandering.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about him at first.
We were.
I wrote down some questions actually.
Uh-huh.
That's where my first question. Okay. So before you knew me, before we became friends, true or false?
It's like Mike Wallace.
You spent most of your time drawing skulls with fire coming out of them all over your notebook.
That was one of my phases.
Yeah.
You know how like Picasso had a blue period and a rose period and all that. So I went through a skull with fire phase. But
this is why your mother was happy when
we became friends.
Right?
Yeah, because you would draw like aardvarks and stuff.
I only realized this in retrospect that I'm the guy that moms were happy. Now I have kids. I understand this. That moms were happy when they became friends with me because you were hanging out. I won't name them. They were named Mike and things like Mike. And they had dirt bikes. Right? Dirt bikes.
Yeah, I knew guys that had those ATVs.
Yeah, ATVs.
Because they lived out in the country.
Right. So, so your family was worried about you. They were pretty worried about you. And then when you become friends with me, because I would do my homework.
He was very quiet. The only reason why we became friends, I don't know if the lower school still has this, but in those days, tell me if I'm wrong. But remember, there were groups. You'd be in the green group or the blue group. They still have that. Yeah. So, and I always suspected it seems random, but the green group, those are the kids that get the harder math tests or whatever. And but we were seated at the same table. It was you and me and a couple other kids. Because you were always he liked to isolate himself and be by himself, and he was in the little carols. And then one day, for some reason, you got forced to sit with us at one of those little square tables.
I couldn't figure out why.
And then we became but you had to join. You had to stop being all by yourself.
Right. And did you actually? But that's what I'm trying. So you actually. Did your mom pressure you to become friends with me because I made your grades better?
No, not at all. No, because I didn't realize you were gonna. So here's the so sort of the origin story. We've been best friends now for since before your parents were born, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but basically we started hanging out, and
I helped you study for tests.
Yeah. Well, what happened was
we have a disagreement about what the subject of the test.
He says it was.
Geography. I think it was geography.
I think it was the kind where you have to draw the picture of evolutionary biology, from Australopithecus and all that, all the way down, the descent of man. Yeah. But anyway, whatever it was, I just studied his way that night, and the next day he got 100 on the test as usual, and I got a 99, and then I was like, I gotta stick with this guy.
Yeah, and then we started you didn't have play dates back then. You really had sleepovers.
Especially because you lived sort of far from me.
But now, my kids don't do sleepovers. No, it's play dates. It's very organized and overseen, right? But so that I only realized that recently
I started having a lot of play dates at his place. So that I could,
and then your grades improved.
I went from being a kid who thought I was just a mediocre student. And I was like, if I just hang with this somehow by osmosis or something, and that literally went all through high school and college.
Yeah.
But it was always annoying because he would always get the he would get an A, and then he would get 100 or whatever, and I'd get a 99 or a 98.
97.
Or I remember even in college we'd get our papers back for whatever the Walt Whitman seminar. And he'd be like, hey, that's great, we both got A's, but what's that line next to yours? There's an A and then there's a dash next to it.
Anyway, so that was the origin story. And then, so set the scene, because it was in this very school, not this building that doesn't exist, that a career day, which most people just ignore a career day changed your life.
That's true.
Yeah,
so what happened was we had... it was third or fourth grade, or probably fourth grade.
Must have been fourth.
Yeah, because it wasn't my first year at the school, I don't think. And they had, I don't know how they had a guy from the Miami Dolphins came, and there was a firefighter.
Now the Dolphins are literally.
Now they're across the street, yeah. It was Kim Bocamper from the Miami Dolphins.
And that inspired how many of our classmates
became Dolphins?
Became Dolphins.
Not too many.
Yeah.
But there was an actor, and he was the one.
Do you remember his name?
His name was Timothy Hawkins,
okay.
And I don't remember his relationship to anybody in the school. He was somebody's uncle or something, and he was like I don't know how, he was an actor on like soap operas or something locally.
Is he still an actor?
I don't know. I gotta Google him. But I ran into him on an airplane once, like a couple years later.
Oh, did you tell him?
But yeah, but I was like 12, or I was like
okay.
Well, it's a long story.
Yeah, go
but
back.
Basically, so I came home and I told my parents, because I was a hammy kid and I had very poor vision, so I was a very bad athlete. At least I blame it on that. But I was a bad athlete, as were you.
Mm-hmm.
And I begged my parents to get me into acting, and I knew, now I feel like there's probably a lot more, but in those days, my mom played tennis with a lady whose son did like print advertisements for like JCPenney or whatever, and they were playing tennis when they said, how'd your kid get in? And anyway, she found out about how you get a manager or an agent, and I started going
Leaf
on.
Levinson?
No, that was another kid who, it might have been him, I don't know.
Because he was doing those.
Yeah, he did, like, you would see him in the Burdine, we would be in the Burdines ads.
Yeah, you would open like the JCPenney or Burdines, and Scott would be modeling.
Like throwing a football.
Sweaters. And then, so the career day, though, watching Timothy Hawkins inspired you to.
Yeah.
So you went home and you said, I want to be an actor.
Well, because I didn't realize that all those, because whatever shows we watched in those days, it never even occurred to me that those were just normal people, that was their job that they went to every day. I thought they lived in some other planet where they did where they got to do this. So this guy sort of made me realize, oh, these are just normal people who pursued this career, and I can too, even though I'm 9. And so I was really persistent. I begged my parents. I was very obnoxious about it. I was very tenacious because I had nothing else to do after school but hang with this guy and copy his homework. And so I wanted, my first audition was for a toy commercial, and I got it. And I went with my little university school wallet size school photo, and all the other kids had their professional headshots or whatever. But I got it, and they gave us the false impression that it was very easy to get into the business, which is not. Because then I went on 10 more auditions and didn't get the part, but that was what started it.
And you started doing commercials?
Yeah, like in Miami, you would go down to Coconut Grove and we're in Miami, and they had casting offices. But then my big break, I got an episode of Miami Vice. Remember that one?
Oh, right.
And I remember my mom threw a big party because I was on Miami Vice that night, but we were in Washington, D.C. for our 7th grade class trip or something.
Oh, right.
And
then Police Academy 5.
Police Academy 5.
I don't think people
which I think is probably the best of the later Police Academy.
I don't think people know Police
No,
Academy.
the police. There were these movies called Police Academy that went up through like 37. But anyway, but my big thing, the biggest part that I got in Florida that really changed like the course of my life in a lot of ways was Hemingway. They did a big miniseries about the life of Ernest Hemingway, and it was, now they're doing them again because of Netflix and Amazon. They're spending big bucks, but in those days they had miniseries too that would air on like CBS or whatever. And they spent $1 gazillion and shot this all over the world. And I played Hemingway's middle son, Patrick. And when we were there in Key West shooting at Hemingway's house, my mom bought me a Hemingway novel. And I became obsessed with Hemingway. So I went to college with my thesis on Ernest Hemingway.
Well, of course, the thing I was most excited about with your career, since I, as you mentioned, was an animation enthusiast and tried my own hand at animation, was always drawing.
And doing claymation. He was amazing. He was like an innovator in those days.
The thing I was excited about, of course, was Aladdin.
Which I wasn't excited about.
You weren't. You didn't know anything about it.
I didn't. I said I got a part in some cartoon. And he goes, well, what cartoon? I said, it's Disney. It's Aladdin. He goes, oh my God, that's being directed by Ron Clements and John Musker. And he knew everybody involved. And he knew that Alan Menken and Howard Ashman were doing, and Tim Rice were doing. He knew everything. And I was like, I'm really glad I didn't talk to you about this when I was going for the audition, because I would have been really nervous.
Now, it's one of the things people don't realize is that for, 60 years, the first animated feature was a Disney feature with Snow White and 7 Dwarfs in the 1930s. For 60 years, all of the Disney voices also sang, right? So they would speak the part, they would also sing.
They required talent to those.
Right. Now, Aladdin was the first time in history of animation where they loved your voice so much, people don't realize this, that they split it up, where they decided you would do the speaking voice, and someone else would do the singing voice. But here's the question: how bad of a singer could you possibly be?
I was really bad.
Well,
Well, I'm a terrible singer.
Can you?
Well,
Okay, well, I remember that on your audition, you tried to sing, right?
Well, because I had learned a lesson. So there's an old movie now. Wasn't old at the time. It's called Newsies. Remember this movie Newsies? They
Well,
made a Broadway
there's a musical.
So I auditioned for the original Newsies show.
Okay.
Movie, not the
And
movie
you
that they
sang
made.
for that?
Well, no, but what happened was I went to the audition and I gave a great audition, and yeah, this is it's free, and I went to the Newsies audition and it was a musical. I knew that, but I figured I would just figure it out, and I gave a great audition. I did a great read for the thing, and I could tell the casting director lit up because I did a great New York accent because my mom's from Brooklyn and all that, so I sounded pretty authentic, and they were like, "That was amazing. Can you sing and dance?" And I said, "Oh no, I can't." I was just honest, and they said, "Oh, sorry, it's a musical. See ya." And then my friend, remember David Moscow from Big, who also couldn't sing and dance, is much smarter than me, and he said, "Yeah, of course I can." And then they just taught him. They taught him how to do it. So Kenny Ortega, who's the greatest, what do they call it? The choreographer, taught him how to dance for 6 months. Anyway, I learned after that lesson to just always lie whenever they asked.
So on the Aladdin audition, they asked, "Can you sing?"
They said, "Can you sing?" And I was like, "Of course." And they were like, "Great. So here's the sheet music," which I couldn't read, and they gave me a tape, which and it was this beautiful song that didn't make it into the movie, but it's in the Broadway musical now.
About his mother.
About his mom. He's gonna make he knows he's a bad kid, but he's gonna make her proud. It's called "Proud of Your Boy." And I get in the car with my mom, and we put it in the car, and she starts crying because it's this beautiful song, and I was like, I'm just gonna do this. So I worked with a singing coach, and I practiced, and I was really ready to just nail it. Right. And we went to the studio, and Alan Menken was playing the piano. I don't know if you guys know Alan Menken. He's the legendary guy, and even back then he was a daunting person to be in the room with. And they're literally, I start to sing, and I'm not in time, so the music is different than where I'm singing. And Alan is like this. And all of the executives were holding their clipboards at Jeffrey Katzenberger, and they're all you can see their heads bouncing. And I came out of the room, and my mom was like, "Huh?" Womp womp. And but I guess they had fallen for my voice.
Right.
It was we were far enough down the road that they were like, "Well, we can't picture this character with a different voice," so they had to go. Alan and Howard had already passed away, so it was Alan and Tim Rice had to go and find someone to match my voice.
And I think that was the first time, and it set a pattern where
they did it. And Princess Jasmine, same thing.
Right.
And they got Lea Salonga to do the singing for her. And it's kind of weird now because now all these years later, when we do these reunion, so it came out on digital a couple years ago on iTunes and stuff. So we had to go to New York to be on Good Morning America, and so they had Alan playing this huge grand piano. And Brad Kane and Lea Salonga, the singers, singing to each other, and me and Linda, who did the speaking voices, we had to be just watching them lovingly, and it's kind of awkward.
Now, when you and Brad is the singing voice of Aladdin, do you get along, or is there some tension there?
We stare each other down. No, it's actually we're good. We're not good buddies. We don't hang out, but we see each other. It's we're friends, and this is the weirdest thing, but he and I went into the same post kid actor life. Career, which is that we both became TV writers.
Right, that's very.
So we've written for 1 million TV shows, and I have a friend who's a TV executive, sort of a cantankerous, argumentative guy, and so Brad was at a meeting with him, a general meeting, and he said, "Actually, it's an interesting fact about me is that I was the voice of Aladdin," and my friend goes, "No, you're not."
Nice.
Because I'm friends with Scott Weinger. He's the one, and he didn't realize that.
Right. So okay, so I never knew if this was true. So true or false? The animation team, the animators for Aladdin, kind of based actually Aladdin's looks, his kind of dashing, boyish grin and gleaming eyes, on Tom Cruise. Is that true?
Yes, it's true. It was Tom Cruise. Well, they wanted him to look like Tom Cruise, and they wanted him to have fluid movement. It's really funny because it dates the movie. They wanted him to move like MC Hammer.
And he does have those pants.
And he's got the Hammer pants. That's why I think they said that. And but then what happened is that the animators, Glenn Keane, who's another guy I didn't know who that was, and then you clued me in that he's the most famous animator of all time. And he would come and sketch me at the recording studio, and they videotaped.
That's why I'm skeptical of this Tom Cruise thing. I think maybe that was for publicity.
I think when they were designing the character, they did, because you could sort of...
I see Aladdin there.
But, it's inevitable, a lot of his facial expressions and stuff that he does, remind. Yeah,
Right.
if you know me,
because
and
when they, I mean, I
movie,
know this from knowing about animation, when they actually film you doing the voice so that the animators can see you, right? Can see your expressions.
Yeah, exactly. So
right.
when they literally watch, and sometimes they record themselves doing it too, but they record you doing it, especially if it's like a kid or something. Yeah, so this guy, so Matt, it is such an impressive animation. He would always get into stuff. We were both like nerds about, like, we would get into something and then get like really into it. We were like, when we got into like rock and roll from the 50s,
Right.
and our 12th birthday party was the 50s and 60s.
Well, because of Back to the Future, I don't know if you guys still still
There
watch
was this
Back
movie
to the
called
Future.
Back to the Future.
And yeah, we got really into it. That was because that was 1985. Was that when we turned 12?
No, we were 10.
Okay, so then a couple years later, when we turned 12, we had a
12th
joint birthday party.
But,
and it was back to the 50s. But why was I? You were dressed like a cool.
I was
50s
because
guy.
I did 50s. I had like a Chesterfield cigarettes t-shirt. You were dressed like a hippie from the 60s.
But why was I in the 60s?
I guess I chose to represent that decade. But anyway, the reason why I brought it up is Matt got really into animation and just learned basically everything there was to know about animation, to the point where he wound up in LA, maybe visiting me. For some reason, he got a meeting with one of the eminent animation historians in LA, and the guy was like, "How do you know all of this?"
Yeah, well, I think we both tended to do that, where we would get too into a subject, like when you did your Hemingway miniseries and became obsessed with Hemingway, and we'll get to college in a minute if we have time, but and then ended up writing about Hemingway for your senior thesis. So how does it? I mean, we're here for your Hall of Fame induction. How does it feel? I mean, it's
we didn't have a Hall of Fame.
No, we didn't have a Hall of Fame. We didn't have this building. So how does it feel, just kind of being inducted now in the Hall of Fame after Josh Gad?
And you.
And me.
But
no. How does it? I mean, it's pretty surreal,
it's really,
right?
It's really nice. And we were just talking in the office. It is strange that
he sung his own. Did Josh Gad sing for Olaf?
Yeah, rub it in.
Yeah.
No. Josh Gad, he's insanely. But my first experience appreciating like that guy's talent was the Book of Mormon.
Oh, right.
Which is like I have that soundtrack memorized every syllable.
Did you inspire him or no?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, no, but
what
was he like? He was like 6 or 7 years after us, so we never would have crossed paths or anything.
Okay.
But it's really nice. It's nice to you've been back.
Everything's different, right? But even our mascot was this harmless little sun.
Yeah.
And now
and remember
they
would play Here Comes the Sun. That was like
yeah. And now it's a shark.
Yeah. It's become a much more aggressive environment.
Speaking of which,
I noticed because when we were driving up to the school, I noticed the sign. It's like, "Eat the competition, be a shark."
Exactly. So
I was like, "Wow, we were just little sons."
I was thinking about you at University School, and my recollection.
By the way, it's really good to be back. You've been back here many times. I haven't been back in a really long time.
I haven't been back many times, but it's very different. And even just looking around and seeing where the fields used to be we didn't play sports on. If I remember, you got into 2 fights at school. Two fist fights.
It's funny because I don't think they have that anymore.
I don't think so.
You're not allowed to do that.
I think you're just kicked. In one, I won't name names, but in one of them you punched the young man. You punched him. You won. Right. That was Peter. I'll just say first names. That was pre Joe Sunken. That was when we were at the lower school. And the other one, a very big, tall,
the large guy.
Young fellow, just walloped you. I don't think. Did you get a punch into that one?
I don't know if I got a punch in, but you know what though? Even though I lost that confrontation, that was my prouder moment because he was cheating at handball.
Oh, that's what I was going to ask you, because you've spent your life trying to get people to love you, trying to get strangers to love you, right? I mean, that's what being an actor. And I was trying to remember
being a child actor.
How could you have even being a child actor? Yeah. How could you have even gotten into these fights? What was that over? So
I was defending my honor at handball.
That was handball.
He said it was over the line.
Do people play handball anymore?
I don't know, but I think like my son is in 3rd grade, and I think if you get in a fight now, you're just
gone. I think your
education is over.
School again, right? What about Peter? Why did you punch Peter?
It was too many. That's lost to the mists of.
You really don't remember.
Time. Yeah,
I've never gotten into a fight.
Those are my 2.
Whose shirt is this?
That was yours now, but I gave it to you.
You gave it to me. I really like this shirt. Whenever I visit Scott in Los Angeles, I go to his closet and I ask him, "What have you not worn?" There's several things that still have tags in them. This had a tag on it.
Well, here's the thing. So my mom got really bored after all 3 of us finished school. Like she was an empty nester, and she went to work at Neiman Marcus in Beverly Hills. And She spent all of the money that she made buying stuff at Neiman Marcus. And so she would be like, try on these 4 shirts I bought you. And I'm like, I don't need 4 shirts. So I would end up with all these shirts in my closet.
This is a great shirt. In fact, it's nicer than the shirt he's wearing.
This isn't,
I think. Because it's a little more formal.
I literally took this out of the plastic this morning. It just came from Zappos.
Here's the trivia question for you. I know you know the answer. When we were here, there was one space, the cafeteria. It was also the auditorium and the gymnasium. What was it called?
It was the cafeteria.
That's right.
Which I've been told is now the recycling facility.
Okay, now, most
Do you remember when the Dukesmen of Yale would come to the cafeteria and perform every year? Acapella groups.
Yeah. I actually don't know the answer to this. Most people have trouble securing one prom date, like one time, and maybe regret even doing it. How many times between sitcoms and real life
have I been to the
been
prom?
A prom date, including this past year?
Yeah, it's true. I've been a prom date. In real life, I was a prom date several times.
3 times, I think.
I went to the University School prom. I flew in. I was shooting a show in California, but me and my girlfriend came to town for the prom, which was really nice. But then on sitcoms, I've been in at least 2 episodes.
No,
of different...
and then one of your co-stars had you.
Then
take
Candace
her to
Cameron
prom.
Bure,
Candace had you take
who
her to
was
her
DJ
actual
on
prom.
Full House. Yeah, I took her to a real prom, and I took her to the
People
prom on the
probably
show.
Don't know that. And on the show.
Yeah, she posted it on Instagram. It's like you can find the picture. But I took her to the prom on the show twice at least, and then on another show I went to the prom where I took 2 dates to the prom. And I tried to keep them on other ends of the gym.
Oh, right.
And they found out.
You must have done that more than once.
I've done that twice. I'm not in real life, on the show.
On the show.
On different sitcoms.
So that's like 7 prom dates.
And then this year, I took her to the prom in a show of Fuller House that hasn't been out. It's not out yet.
It hasn't even come out yet. I didn't know that.
I think we've been to at least 2 proms on the show. Yeah, we joke about it. I've been just with Candace. I've been to the prom like half a dozen times.
Okay, so the football team. You now have a football team. We didn't have a football team.
Yeah, we used to play flag football. Not we.
Well, you won. No, this is what I remember. You once played football, or let me rephrase that. You played football only once. And here's a multiple choice question. You were tackled by A, Angelo Marzano.
He was a big guy.
B, Ronnie Levine. Or C.
He was a little bit aggressive.
Or C, a bench.
It was a bench.
That's right.
So, that was amazing. So this is my family. This is my athletic career and my family in a nutshell.
It's really gruesome.
So we're playing football. It was like after some event, and for some reason I was like, why am I standing on a field with balls? And so I was like, I'll play the football game. And so I'm running to catch a ball, and I catch the ball, which was like the first time, because it was a football, it was pretty big, I could see it. And a baseball or a tennis ball, I couldn't see. So, but anyway, I'm running, like, this is my moment of glory. And I just go down. I ran right over a metal bench, and I looked at it.
It was just the bone. You could see the bone.
It was disgusting. So in those days, they called my mom, and they said, Scott's been injured.
You didn't have cell phones. You didn't have cell phones.
No, we had car phones. Like, Mom had a phone in her car.
Okay.
And, but they called her, and they said, Scott's been injured. And she said, oh, my God, how? And they said, playing football. She said, I think you've called the wrong phone. And they said, no, it's definitely yours, and he's on the field, and you got to come get him. So she drove in her, like, 1980 whatever Mercedes, drove out onto the field, and she's like, get in! And they helped me in, and they called my dad, who was an orthopedic surgeon, and she says, meet us at the hospital. Scott needs stitches. And he didn't want to meet.
He was busy.
He was busy. He was cleaning the boat. So we had to go to the Hollywood Marina, and he brought the little tackle box full of first aid stuff to the car, and he just taped it up.
Do you still have a scar?
Huge, because I needed like 35 stitches. Yeah, really? Because he didn't want to go to the hospital. Wow. He was cleaning the boat.
I didn't know you still have a scar. So, I knew the rest of it. Okay.
Well, I have a scar on my leg, but I have a much bigger emotional scar.
So I want to get to the academic side of you. So because people know you for your work in Hollywood, but you were actually, this is pretty incredible. You were only the third person from this school to go to Harvard.
Really?
I'm just trying to imagine how that. Well, I was the second one, but I'm trying to imagine how that felt. So how did it feel to really like break barrier? I mean, almost break a barrier. The first one I think was in the 1970s, so it's all the way back when the school first started.
And then it was us, but
and then Harvard was like, not sure about university school. But then we broke through. We actually got in at the same time.
We got in. No, we didn't get in at the same time.
Oh, that's right.
Speaking of emotional scars.
Go ahead. Tell
because
the story.
you got in early.
Yes. Yes,
and
that's
so
right.
what happened was, and I didn't even want to go to Harvard. I wanted to go to Yale because I thought because they had the drama and all that stuff. So I applied early to Yale, and I got deferred. I didn't get like rejected, but they said, "Well, we'll see in the spring."
Yeah, they weren't sure.
And so he was like on easy street because he got in early, and I had to apply to like 42 schools because I was so convinced. I was like, "Well, if they deferred me, then I'm not going to get into any college, obviously." So I applied to a million schools. And I ended up getting in, but then because of the Harvard thing, I was like, well, I can't not go to school with my best buddy.
Yeah, I remember you were trying to decide between Harvard and Yale, and he decided Harvard, but then you waited a year to go to Harvard.
Yeah, I deferred. That's why you were the second and I was the third.
In order to do more episodes of Full House, I repeat, you waited to go to Harvard to do more episodes of Full House.
Well,
and then I was there by myself. I
wanted you to sort of see how, like, to test the waters, find out which is the best pizza.
And do you remember asking me how it was? Because you must have been, I mean, Harvard was a huge, I mean, it was like this other planet for me. And I feel like even more so coming from the Hollywood world.
I had, like, fantasies about it. Because, like, my favorite movie then, and maybe still now, was Dead Poets Society. Right. And I thought I was going to,
Which is not Harvard, but it's the same kind of...
It felt like that, with the leaves changing, and you get to wear a pea coat. The food's not good.
Yeah, and you got a pea coat. We both got
pea coats. I didn't realize that it was insufficient. I was like freezing to death. Sophomore year, I went to City Sports and I said, "Give me the warmest jacket that you have."
Because neither of us ever lived in that.
We didn't know. We were from here. So, although, it's funny, everybody wears shorts. We weren't allowed to wear shorts when we were students here.
Although, do you remember, I think it was before you were here. I'm a lifer. I was here from kindergarten. And they used to, I don't think they do this anymore. They used to bring snow here.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was just like a pile of ice.
It was just ice. It was just like crushed ice that they dumped.
It was like a big snow cone, and we were all frolicking.
And I thought that was snow because I was like, wow, this is. Who wants to live? Who wants to? And you had a snowball. You tried to have a snowball fight, but you were just throwing crushed ice.
That's true.
So no, but I remember being absolutely terrified.
I was intimidated. Well, I was.
But you got to visit. You visited me, right?
Yeah, I visited you. I went as a pre-frosh twice because I deferred a year. And in those days, if you wanted, it was very easy to defer. You would just fill out a postcard and mail it in and say, "I'm definitely coming, but next year." And it was great. And in those days, even though we had email, you would write me letters for some reason. I guess when you were procrastinating, you'd write me a letter.
I remember writing letters.
And I remember you wrote me one from, I think, Lamont Library. You said, "I'm writing this to you from Lamont Library, which is the social library at Harvard, because I just heard a kid cough." It's like,
no. Well, the backstory is right, that when you look at one of these guides, like the guidebook to Harvard, it would tell you, this one library, Lamont Library, was where people would hang out and have fun.
No.
And it's not. No, nobody looks at each other. I was just there the other day.
It's funny because I was intimidated the same way everybody's intimidated. Yeah. And this is like, by the way, this speaks to the university school. This is like, could be a commercial for university school. We go to Harvard, and the first thing they make you do is take this class called expository writing, where they teach you, because most people don't know how to, write a nice essay or whatever.
Right.
And so it's everybody. It's the whole school, people that are going to be pre-med or business or any major. You're all sort of like randomly put together, and you do peer grading, so you read each other's papers. And it's the best thing ever because you realize, like, wow, I'm such a better writer than 97.
Yeah, that's true.
It was almost disappointing because
we expected to be sort of really blown away by everybody, and we actually found that we
were very well prepared.
And actually, a lot of people don't know this about you, but you're really fluent in French, and even
I wasn't then. But...
No, but that was what was even more unusual, is that you picked it up so quickly that they had to keep putting you into these very advanced.
Well, I got really into it because you're
gifted. It was like you were gifted at it. You had a gift.
I got pretty good at it. I didn't anticipate that because I wasn't that great with Spanish, but I think I was super motivated with French because I wanted to live in.
Yeah, you love. Well, actually, and then that goes back to the Hemingway thing, where we kind of started to love that group of writers, Hemingway and Fitzgerald. And,
definitely. Well, my two big goals there were I wanted to major in English and become really proficient, and I guess it was like we were both really into early 20th century, like modernist fiction and poetry, you and me, and also 17th century poetry and prose, but like. Anyway, I really got into the Hemingway stuff. Yeah. Hemingway and French were like my two.
Yeah, when you're motivated, I think that's part of it. Now, you're a very successful writer, and actually we occasionally work on some writing projects together, or start some writing projects together. And one of them is we're always batting around doing kind of a history of our bar mitzvah season here, right? We had a really kind of incredible 7th to 8th grade of misadventures.
There's like 2 years where you're just every weekend there's two bar mitzvahs a weekend.
And the first line that we've batted around is, by the time we were 13, there was nothing we hadn't seen. because it was really kind of, and we had certain moments like when one of the bat mitzvah girls' hair catches on fire. And
that was going to be the intro to our movie.
Yeah, if we do it as
We're still going to.
Okay, well, here's the trivia question. So we all had different themes, right? My bar mitzvah theme was animation, and people had baseball and stuff. Trivia: what was the theme of your bar mitzvah?
The theme of my board. Yeah. I mean, it's easy.
It was Scott.
It was It was Scott, but it was really like it was big Hollywood.
Pictures of,
right,
it was like supposed to be Hollywood,
but
it was
like showbiz. Kind of.
Showbiz, but it was these cardboard cutouts of Scott, and we would take pictures of it. It was great. I'm just
it
saying.
really was. It was a tribute. It really was.
Full House is now, of course, rebooted as Fuller House. Mm-hmm. My understanding is actually John Stamos thought of that. You went to Harvard, top of your class at Harvard. Why didn't you think of that? Fuller House.
I don't know, but you know what though? I
John Stamos
Fullest House.
No, that's good.
I don't know if Stamos. I think they were all talking about. But the funny thing is, it was a very far-fetched idea. They were like Jeff Franklin, who created the show, and the three women, Candace and Andrea and Jody, like that they were going to go. Kimmy and DJ and Steph. They went all over town pitching this show as a reboot. And it was before the reboot thing,
right?
Because Full House really started the reboot thing. So everybody was like, "That's not a great idea," and they all everyone in town passed. And then this guy Brian Wright, who's an executive at Netflix, had been an executive somewhere else, I think, and he heard the pitch, but he wasn't in a position to buy it. So then when he got the job at Netflix, he called Jeff and he said, "Come back and pitch it again, because now I'm in a position where I might be able to do something." And so they went in, and it was sort of his. It was kind of a genius.
So what season is just starting now?
So season 4 comes out on December 14th.
Oh, so we're plugging something.
Yeah, we're plugging. Okay. So can you roll a clip? But I have 2 things coming out this month. Actually today, so I have, we were talking about the France thing.
Right.
So I had a really cool experience, which is that I went to Paris this year to work on a new series in French language series for Netflix. And it came out literally today.
And if any of the students are studying French, do you guys have French? Is that okay?
Yeah,
can they watch that on the Netflix?
I don't think they can. I think it's inappropriate for.
Oh, forget it.
But no, that's it's like it's not for little kids.
Yeah,
it's for high school kids who can
for
obviously watch it. Yeah. No, but I don't think you could watch it in the classroom.
But can you watch it on your regular Netflix?
Yeah, absolutely. It came out. I checked this morning because it came out today. It's called in English. If you want to look it up on Netflix, it's called The Hookup Plan, which is a terrible title. Okay. But in French, it's called Plan Cœur, which means like a plan heart, which is like there's a really long explanation why.
No, it's like that's okay. So you've always had this charisma, and that's helped you in acting, in writing. Now I even remember at Space Camp. Do you guys still have trips to Space Camp?
Do you guys still have Space Camp?
No, but I have.
They still have Space
Camp. We had a class trip to Space Camp, and I remember even there. They chose you. The Space Camp authorities chose you as captain of our shuttle because we were in the same shuttle.
I was the commander.
The commander. And we were the first shuttle in the history of Space Camp, in the whole history of Space Camp.
And maybe
to crash the shuttle into mission control and kill everybody.
Yeah, which by the way wasn't easy to do because we launched from Kennedy and crashed into Houston.
But you did that, right? I'm not remembering that. Right?
No, that was real. Well, so we go to Space Camp, which we were very excited about because there was a popular movie called Space Camp that made Space Camp look really fun.
In the movie, they accidentally launch go into actual space.
So, which we came close, but there was a girl there named Jenny Stewart, and her father was the very first guy to do an extravehicular. Like he did a spacewalk not tethered with like a jetpack.
Okay.
And so he was a famous astronaut. And I had a huge crush on her. She was like one of our teachers or something.
Right.
And I was trying to impress her and I crashed the shuttle.
I wonder how you did that. I do remember.
I don't remember, but they did tell me. They did.
And we got into trouble. We were awarded. We were given the last place in all of the rankings.
Is that true? I think you're exaggerating.
No, I remember there was a ceremony at the end.
And they were like, "You guys."
And remember the guy screamed at us.
Well, can I be honest? I was a little disappointed. Even though it was nice to be made the commander of the flight, what I really wanted was to go in the thing that would spin around.
Oh.
And I didn't get to do that where you go upside down.
Yeah, you were commander, and Amy Zager was.
It's all coming back. My whole youth is coming back.
Co-commander. Okay, so many child.
Amy Zager was she would have been. I guess there's the commander and then the pilot.
I wonder if there's still Zagers in the school because she had several siblings.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
She was your co.
I guess my pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
I just watched First Man, so I know all the lingo again.
Yeah, I think several of our classmates, there are kids around.
Yeah, well, I know Keith Polyakoff's kids.
Well, they're not in high school yet, but maybe Evan Schland's kids are around high school.
Oh, that's
middle school.
Middle school too? Oh, okay.
It's really funny to be back here after all. I mean, it's funny to be back here now as old people.
Well, okay, so I was thinking, so many child actors obviously end up with very troubled lives and substance abuse, arrests and shoplifting, but what happened? You're so boring. Nothing has you never got a speeding ticket?
That's true. I've never gotten a speeding ticket, but I ran a red light once.
I remember.
Yeah,
I was in the car.
Yeah, I was because I was driving you to the airport. We were late.
That's not what we weren't late. And he won't drive me to the airport anymore. I have to do Uber when I visit.
Yeah. Well, but they didn't have Uber back then. But basically, I think what.
But you've done it all. I mean, you've had this balanced life, and you've done it all.
I was very lucky. Here's the reason. I mean, this is to be completely honest. I have to give the university school a lot of credit because I was very lucky that I got to have the best of both worlds, which is that I would go to LA and have my career, and then I got to come back here and be a normal kid and go to this amazing school that was academically challenging and full of smart kids, and the school was very he's going like this. Don't make fun of our fellow students. I mean, it's full of smart kids now. Back then, no, but I was very fortunate that we had great teachers, and they were very supportive. They would, if I had to leave, let's say, sometimes for weeks at a time, they would put together these amazing packages. And I was also very lucky to have a very supportive. The producers of the shows that I worked on they had 10 shows on the air, so they had unlimited budget. So when I was taking calculus or whatever, and the studio teachers didn't know how to do it, they got a professor from UCLA to come to the school trailer. So when I came back to school, I was pretty well caught up.
And you always had a tutor. I remember. Do you guys remember the Full House episode? If those of you who have watched the original Full House, where they go to Disney World. I remember I visited you when you were doing that, and you were Indiana Jones. You were on the Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I was did all the characters.
And your tutor was always with you, right? Wasn't that your tutor with the earplugs?
Yeah, although I don't know. I guess I was still a student at the time. I thought that was after. But basically, it was a pretty good system. I mean, I was very committed to keeping up with the school here and keeping up. I didn't want to show up and not know what was going on. So I had I was very fortunate, and also I was lucky to have a good family that I didn't. I wasn't pushed into acting because we were trying to pay the rent or buy dad a fancy car, which I knew a lot of kids in LA, that's why they were doing it.
Right.
And I was doing it just because I loved it and my parents supported me and the school supported me.
Right. I mean, you have all these great stories that we can't tell about the other actors that you would hang out with and go out on auditions with. We can't tell a lot of those stories. Not because of you, because of the craziness that
it was crazy. It was definitely a weird world, and I think it's probably even weirder now. I wouldn't want to be a kid actor today, but and also I think I was part of a group of friends here, but also there, of kids who were determined to not be cautionary tales. So.
Right.
We all wanted. Me and my little group of kid actor friends all wanted to go to.
Right. There were a bunch of Fred Savage and
went to Stanford.
Right.
And I mean I knew a bunch that went to Yale.
Right.
They let them all into Yale. We were if you were in a toothpaste commercial, they'll take you.
So I was gonna say, what are you most proud of? But actually, let me ask it this way. So you have a 9-year-old. I have he turned 9.
Yeah, he's in 3rd grade.
And I have 3 kids, and one of them is around the same age as 8. It's very hard to impress these kids, right? So what's the moment in which your son appreciated or impressed that daddy is doing all of this, the acting, the voice acting, the writing? Has he been impressed?
When he was very little, it was an abstract concept because we have a lot of Aladdin tchotchkes around the house, and there's a picture that Glenn Keane made for me, and it says "To Scott, the real Aladdin," and it's and so he asked me, what was it like when you were a kid and you were a cartoon? He thought I was a cartoon, and I somehow joined our world before. But it was sort of like when we were little, my brother asked my mom what the world was like when it was in black and white, because all the and then he figured it out. It was really cool when in 2015, when Aladdin was being re-released on on they said. What does your son think of the movie? I said, he's never seen it. He's kind of little. They said, your son has never seen Aladdin. So they made a big event where on the Disney lot in Hollywood, in Burbank, they have a huge screening room, like a movie theater, and they threw him a screening that and they threw him a whole party on the lot with like a bazaar with like games and stuff. It was amazing. And so he brought all of his best friends,
Right.
and the directors of the movie came and they gave speeches and stuff. And I was a writer on I think Blackish at the time, so my Blackish writing staff came, and that was the day that he realized,
you were bringing the white Jewish perspective to Blackish. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I felt it was important, but
you also wrote for Muppets, which I was very excited about.
That was fun. That was that was a great. The funny thing is,
who was the hardest to work with? Like Kermit, Miss Piggy.
Kermit was a difficult guy, but he was a challenging person to work with. But I think they have a new Kermit now because of it. But anyway,
I was just kidding, but he's serious. They did.
Yeah, no, I shouldn't say that, but I think it's public.
No. Well,
but anyway, I was very fortunate that one of the the way you get TV writing jobs usually is by being a white Jewish guy. If you do well on one show and then you work with people who are like what you do and think you have something to contribute, then they call you. 9 times out of 10, it's somebody that you worked with before called. And I knew a lady who had been hired to run the new Muppets, and she said, "Come on," and the timing was really good, so I got to go work.
That must have been really fun.
It was really fun. That was great. Being on the set was all. I didn't know this. It was all elevated. Like the whole set, it looks like the office because it was an office, but it was like, a few feet off the ground so the puppeteers could, it was pretty amazing.
Right.
That was a really fun job.
So Blackish, Muppets, 90210.
90210 it's not like my dream show.
That's a very different
it was the new 90210.
This is the new 90210.
Which is now also old.
Which may be right, even now.
Yeah, but that was, I got that job because I got hired actually by one of our college classmates, but I had never written for like a teen soapy kind of a drama thing, and it ended up being, it was a lot of fun. Right. It was a good education for like coming up with a lot of stories.
That's all. I didn't write anything else. This one's blank.
It's a metaphor for the future.
So maybe, but I think everyone has to get back to their classes anyway. So.
You're still here.
But this is also our reunion because you, it was many years ago that you graduated.
And you
graduated high school.
And it's true. But it's really.
You're a little younger than me, but.
I know it's true. Well, he's 3 days older than me. So. I'm where you were 3 days ago.
You're catching up. So thank you for being here on my show.
Thank you. You did a great
weekly
By the
show.
Way,
next week, I would come back.
But I'm glad to be back, and I really do. I have even though I haven't been back here in a long time.
Are we supposed to say questions, or we don't have time? Maybe.
No, we have time. We
do.
about 20
Okay,
minutes.
great.
Oh, cool. I was just about to say, I'm very grateful to this school because it was very instrumental in for me not just being well prepared for college, but also for having the experience that I had. Was really I was very lucky.
I feel the same way.
So before we go to questions, can I bring in? We have a whole team of students who have been gathering in the control room who would like to join for this part of it.
Cool.
Guys, try to fill in all the way through.
I mean, maybe in the past.
Who should I have next week?
Josh Gad. I don't know Josh Gad, but everybody says he's like a great guy.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't run into him.
It's funny. We know of each other. Like he bumped into Linda Larkin, who played Princess Jasmine, and then he said, "Do you know Scott? Are you still friends with Scott?" He's like, "We went to the same high school, so he's aware of it."
You should just email him or something.
I'll just tweet at him.
And you guys can get coffee. I'm sure that'd be really fun. Okay, so let's open it up to the studio audience. Anyone have any questions?
No, sorry, you do.
Yeah.
So obviously, I'm Camilla, and obviously you guys have a great passion for English and writing and everything to do with the art. What extracurriculars in school did you also really participate in, or did you also do things outside of school to help you get prepared for what you were going to do in the future?
Great question, thank you. Well, you were away so much doing your extracurricular, which was
I was one of those. I was very lucky that before I got into acting, I didn't really have anything to do after school because I didn't do any sports really. I would do local theater productions. Like I did the Fort Lauderdale Children's Theater and things like that.
We didn't really have much theater here.
At school,
right?
yeah. Well, you know what I did here that was sort of tangentially related to it for a little while. There was a moment where I was here for a longer chunk without having to leave, and I got into forensics. And so and so I was into that. I would go to the forensics competition.
Do you guys still have?
Yeah,
is it still
I'm in
called
the
forensics?
speech and debate team.
Oh, cool! I really enjoyed that. That was really fun. You know, in high school and in college, it was hard to get into things consistently because I was always getting pulled away. But yeah, that was, and then
I don't remember. So did you actually participate in some of the debates?
Yeah. Well, we didn't do debates. We did the kind where it was sort of like a performance, extemporaneous speaking or something. But and then I did a lot of local theater. So like I did a big play at the Sunrise Musical Theater. Remember that? It was called Today I'm a Fountain Pen. And
was it also about a bar mitzvah?
It was about a bar mitzvah, which is, I don't know, it's like one of the main themes of our life is bar mitzvahs.
Yeah.
But
we remember each of the bar mitzvahs.
I've actually sold a completely different movie script to the movies about a bar mitzvah.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I sold it to Puff Daddy. He wanted to play the lead. It was about a guy his age who has a bar mitzvah.
Right.
And and then he didn't end up making it.
Well, maybe he will.
Well, because he would go through the script and be like, "This is amazing. I love this," and then he'd go, "I don't like this."
Yeah, those are great stories. Meeting with Puff Daddy.
Puff Daddy. But anyway, but the we both, Matt and I.
P. Diddy. Wait, which one is it now?
We just called him Sean.
Oh, okay.
But he never made the movie, but it was cool to be with. But anyway, and I wrote that with my brother, so it was me and my brother. But
who also went.
He didn't graduate from here. He ended up we moved to LA and he went to people.
Oh right, by that point, right.
But I did theater after school and I did theater. I participated and then you were really interested in your art stuff.
I did a lot of
animation.
drawing.
Did you have a comic strip in the Sun in the New York?
I did illustrations
Sun
for the newspaper here and and I was on yearbook.
Oh yeah.
So things that were quasi.
But he would do like legit like animation at home.
Well, yeah, that I would do on my own. And we had a little tiny room in the library where we did video stuff here and editing, and I would get to use that as well. So
we did.
Which is to say, you guys should.
We wrote campaign speeches for kids running for student council.
Oh right. Well, that's a whole. That was probably one of our. Well, I don't know if that was one of our finest moments, but that's a whole long story.
Okay, we will.
Okay, so let's see if there's anyone else.
I wanted to ask, what is something you've accomplished or been a part of that you're most proud of in your career this far?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, what's your name?
Hannah.
Hannah, because
sure.
This is really interviewing you, so I don't want
to
step on your toes.
All right. Well, for me, I've been very lucky. I think at this point, this is going to sound depressing, but like longevity. The fact that I've been.
Your hair still looks great.
Well, I take several Propecia daily. That's the pill that you take. But basically I got into show business when I was 8 years old, basically, after that career day, and started working here locally, and then ended up in LA and started working, and then left to go to college, which was a great experience. And then maybe the most challenging thing was coming back to LA after that and figuring out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, because acting, I always loved it when it was my extracurricular activity. And then when I came to LA and I was like, I'm going to be an actor now full time. And I hated it. I didn't want to be I thought it was weird to be at an audition without my mom. I was like, this is strange.
You never liked auditioning.
I didn't like auditioning.
As opposed to actually acting. It's two different.
But also it felt like when you would go on an audition and it was like your career and it was like your livelihood, it felt like the stakes, when it was like the stakes were real, I wasn't able to enjoy it. And I had always wanted to get into writing. And I think the thing that I'm proudest of really is that I was able to figure out how to do that. That I was able to, and I started from scratch. I went to work as an assistant to a director, a TV director, and met a bunch of TV writers and wrote spec scripts. And then I spent a year as a writer's assistant on a TV show, making copies and stuff and typing out down all the notes.
Which you're not very good at, probably.
I wasn't good at any of that stuff. I was delegated, but made it look like I was very busy. But I got very good at typing.
Right.
Miss Propus would be super proud of the rate at which I could type.
I don't think she's
still here.
Oh, really?
I would blow her mind. But I wasn't a great typing student back then. But
I think you had to relearn.
I did because it had been many years, so I had to get an app. and I taught myself how. But anyway, but like
Guys, we have a caller.
Huh?
I mean, we have a call-in question.
Oh,
sure.
Let's take a caller.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Hey, I'm putting you on speakerphone, okay?
hello.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi.
Hey, it's Josh Gad. Hi, Josh Gad.
You know what? This feels so right. So strange that you and I have never spoken in all this time.
This is not how I anticipated meeting you, but it's an honor. I've been.
I only exist as a voice now. I literally don't have a human form.
like the girlfriend in Her.
I'm often told that I'm the girlfriend from Her.
Well, I wish we could hang out all day with you in my shirt pocket. Well, listen, your ears must have been burning. We've spent a lot of this. You've occupied a lot of the real estate today.
Josh, this is Matthew Pearl, one of Scott's classmates, and I was just saying that you and Scott should have coffee in LA. I was inviting you and Scott to a coffee that I invented.
Matt has set us up on a coffee date, so I look forward to it.
You could talk about Mrs. Winrow.
I cannot wait to sit with you and the memory of Matt Pearl setting up this event
Mm-hmm.
and discuss teachers of old. It's so funny because I'm sure we had so many of the same teachers like Linda Winrow,
Yeah.
Adler,
Yeah, love that guy. Of course.
all the staples.
Yeah.
Sure, we both share them.
They were a big part of my childhood. I always say, Matt was a very good student, so he made me a better student just by osmosis. But Mrs. Winrow really, she whipped me into shape. I behaved very well in her class.
I don't know. I think you got in trouble for not behaving well.
Well, there was one time when another teacher was absent and I had my Mrs. Winrow persona, which was very like, yes ma'am, and then every other class where I wasn't quite like that. And then one day I was like on the floor of another classroom doing something silly, and I opened my eyes and looked up, and there was Mrs. Winrow standing over me, and I was terrified. But she was amazing. She really did help me academically, got me ready for college, and also my younger brother, who didn't end up going here for high school yet, we moved to California. She used to see him running in the halls and just being a ne'er-do-well, and she used to say, I can't wait to get my hands on your brother.
Well, Josh, we were saying, what are the odds? We were saying this actually before we came in here. What are the odds? This is Matt again. Of you and Scott, of how many Disney movies
Voices.
have there been? Right, there hasn't been even since 1937 or whatever the first one. There's only been a handful. What are the odds of two of the main voices coming out of the? Now I was making fun of Scott because he didn't sing his songs and you did.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Well, I want to add a wrinkle to this conversation that is crazy. So I go to this event for our school to meet the new parents who are coming in, and I have one daughter in second grade and one daughter in DK, developmental kindergarten, and I'm at this like potluck event, and this guy comes up to me and he goes, I have to say hi to you. Like I recognize your face and I can't figure out where I know you from. And it is the singing voice of Aladdin.
Also known as the talented Aladdin. But that's really.
And I look at him and I'm like, oh my God, my high school alum association is with the speaking voice of Aladdin, and I've got you. This feels like kismet.
Wait, that was today?
No, this was a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, that's so funny.
I feel like now the three of us should have dinner.
That would be great. Absolutely. That
You can't escape it.
That's really funny. And it's another fact is that I think either The Little Mermaid or Belle from Beauty and the Beast is also from Hollywood, Florida. I think Jodie Benson.
I think you're right.
Jodie Benson, who's the Little Mermaid, I think,
Right.
is also a local from the neighborhood, which is very strange.
Look at us just dominating.
What is it? Well, I'll tell you what it is.
Well,
It's
until you're all replaced by the live action version.
yeah, that's true. But no, but they would use Josh. Josh.
Yeah,
is
Josh.
talented enough
They'd have to use Josh, right?
But
because that would be the snowman would be.
I'll tell you what it is. Here's
digital.
Here's the thing. We have we grow up in Florida. The air is very humid. It's good for our pipes. So that's why we grow up with good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good theory.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah. But well. So, but Josh, I'm gonna look you up out in California. We'll get together with the other Aladdin.
Look me up. I would absolutely love it. Danny will give you my info, and can't wait to sit down with you. Congrats on Fuller House, but my kids and I absolutely love the show.
Thanks. I appreciate that. The new episodes come out in a week.
I'm so excited. We keep seeing the preview.
All right, cool. And can we just drive around like carpool karaoke singing the Book of Mormon?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll play the other guy. We'll sing "I Am Here for You" just to each other. All right, great.
This is gonna be the most eventful night in the history.
I'm literally flying home early to do this. I'm catching the red eye so that we could do this tomorrow. All right.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a picture of you.
All right, cool. All right, well, I'll see you soon.
Have a great one, guys.
Nice to meet you, Josh.
Well, that's so funny. I'm starstruck. That guy's amazing. I mean, Book of Mormon is the funniest show of all time. I mean, he's amazing.
Well, should we, or do we have time for more questions?
We have 7 more minutes.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
So I don't know if somebody asked this earlier, but have you ever met Robin Williams? And if you did, what was it like?
Yeah, well, we got to record together. I mean, when you record an animated movie, a lot of it you're by yourself. But then when you, there's a lot of it where you're with the other actors. And if you're with an actor like him who would improvise a lot, then you had to be in the room because the dialogue would change. So he would go off script, so then I would have to go off script. And so, like I said, Dead Poet Society was my favorite movie in the world. Like I had a poster on the wall that took up my whole wall. And so, I mean, even when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with this show called Mork and Mindy, which was, I don't even know if it was on when we were kids, but I remember.
No, that was
before our time, but I watched the reruns. And so, but anyway, he was like a larger than life person to me before that. So it was very intimidating, but he was very cool. He was, in fact, I'm really glad.
And Good Morning Vietnam, was that?
Good Morning Vietnam we were obsessed with because we were interested in all the 60s music and everything. And, so when I met him, I was, intimidated, but he put me at ease very quickly. And I'm happy that they recorded us recording together. Like they videotaped it. So when I was a kid, so it was a really crazy thing because I remember we were standing like right across from each other, but with a glass in between so that we wouldn't bleed onto each other's microphones. But we were in the same room and everybody else was like in like a booth like that. So they could laugh as hard as they wanted. It wouldn't screw up the take, but I had to be really quiet not to screw up the take. And he was so funny that I literally, so I wouldn't ruin it, I fell to the floor so I could laugh without ruining the take. And I told that story so many times over the many years since Aladdin came out that I couldn't even remember if it was a true story. I was like, that's a great story, but I don't really remember the actual event. And then when it came out on DVD or something, in the extras, you see it. So now it's on YouTube. If you look up like the Behind the Voices of Aladdin or something, there's this long video and you see me, it happened. Yeah, I was in my Jim Morrison phase, so I have very long hair. But I'm the guy with long hair who falls on the floor.
So, did you get to chat with Robin Williams?
Yeah, and I would run into him over the years. I would see him at an event and say hi. Sometimes I would have to like reintroduce myself.
Right.
But
was he always on when you were? Was he
no. On the contrary, he was very quiet. He was like he had like a persona, so he would be very quiet and thoughtful. And then when you would, as soon as the red light went on, he turned into Robin Williams. And he was amazing. I mean, he was really. I was like that was one of the lucky things in my life was getting to meet him and work with him. And he was like a genius. Like a generation kind of thing. It was pretty. Actually, the fun total coincidence, but I read an interview or saw an interview with Josh Gad where they became good friends in New York when he was doing Book of Mormon, and he said the same thing.
Right.
So,
it all goes back to.
It all goes back to Josh Gad. That would be really funny.
You guys have both like dabbled in a lot, so how have you settled into like what you ultimately pursued, and like how do you keep the rest of your interests like in your life?
Well, the truth of the matter is that we're still kind of dabblers, both of us, in the sense that I thought I was a full-time TV writer, and then they called me and they were like, we're doing this new Full House, and I had left acting behind many, many years ago. I had decided I was never going on another audition ever again. I just hated it. It's not worth it. And I would put myself in things that I would write, you know, where people would like, as a joke, my wife's also a TV writer, so she had me do an episode of her show, which was unfortunate because I was in the pool. So now if you look me up on IMDb, it's a picture of me without a shirt on, which is not my finest look. But anyway, so when they called and asked me to do Fuller House, it was just supposed to be one episode. They were like, we're doing this reunion episode where there's a party at DJ's house. And they sent me the script and it says, DJ says, how are the wife and kids? And I was like, oh, cool. So then this is just a one-off. I'm not going to be back for more. And then after the table read, I had so much fun and it went really well. I got an email that night from the creator of the show. He's like, you killed today, man. He goes, I'm going to cut out all that stuff about your wife and kids so you can come back on the show. And so I ended up, at that year, I was writing on a TV show called Galavant, which was a musical on ABC that Alan Menken wrote all the music for, which is a weird coincidence. And, but anyway, I would just sneak away and do an episode. And that year I ended up doing like 7 of them. And then they created this whole love triangle with me and DJ. And then he called me and he's like, now I have to like sign, you have to like, I need you on the show. And so I made a deal to do that. And it's, so now all of a sudden I'm an actor again, which I wasn't like planning. But anyway, but like it's been fun. I get to write. It's like it's literally my dream come true that I get to go to do my acting job, and then I still write shows every year in between. Like the French thing that came out today on Netflix was really fun, and that was like a dream on a dream on a dream because we got to shoot it in Paris. I had my writer's room, the window overlooked the Eiffel Tower. It was pretty amazing. So I think the trick is to just keep going, you know, especially in the entertainment business, you know, just if, you know, because some doors close to you, you know, like I can no longer play a high school wrestler. So you keep pursuing new things. The French job came because I heard that Netflix was making French language TV shows. So I scheduled a meeting to pitch them an idea for a rom-com that I had. And I was like, they're never going to buy this, but I could say I did it, you know? And I go in to pitch it, and I'm like, so my deal is I love France, and I learned how to speak French, and my dream is to make a rom-com in Paris. And they were like, stop! We have one that we're making, and it's falling apart. Will you go to Paris and fix it? And I was like, a month later in Paris. And it was just one of those lessons where just, no matter how outlandish the idea seems, just do it anyway. I mean, using Matt as an example, he was in law school, and he had this idea for a novel, and he wrote a 500-page novel, and he ended up selling it before he graduated and started his whole career as a novelist.
That's the creative fields, publishing and Hollywood, the various iterations of Hollywood. It's you know, in some ways it will always look or feel like dabbling a bit because there's not a track that stays consistent. It's kind of entrepreneurial in a way, because you have to constantly improvise what you're doing next, whether it's a specific project or what facet of the field you're kind of focusing on, especially in all kinds of writing, and as things evolve. I mean, you know, Fuller House is this gigantic hit on Netflix, and you know, it's not that long ago where Netflix didn't exist as a network. So everything is evolving and changing very quickly with all the creative fields. So you kind of have to have that. You have to accept that when you're in.
Yeah, you definitely have to evolve with the business, you know, as it changes. I just realized I never actually got to pitch my TV show.
That was our last question.
Okay,
we have
so
another group who's coming in right now.
Great.
So guys, thank you very much. This was